Computer. All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. I got another special guest on the channel today, my man Davon Gutierrez Bell, one of my best friends from back home, one of my guys that I love to talk basketball with. And Davon, thanks for coming onto the channel. I appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Can't wait to talk about hoops and some football.
Yeah, so like he just said, we're gonna do some basketball and some football, and we're gonna start off with some of our award predictions for this season, all the major awards, and who we have going to the finals and winning it all. The season just tipped off this week. Opening night was on Tuesday. We had some great games. We've really had some great games across the board to start the season, a lot of close games. And so I guess we'll just get started. Davon, who do you have winning? Who do you have making it to the finals? What's your matchup?
All right, so my finals matchup is going to be the Nuggets versus the Boston Celtics. And the reason why I have the Nuggets making it is because I don't see any team in the Western Conference stopping that offensive juggernaut in Jokic. And their bench actually, believe it or not, has gotten better. Now that we have not we, now that they have Reggie Jackson going off and Bruce Brown's not there anymore, but I believe Christian Brown is going to step up and replace Bruce Brown. And the Celtics, I picked them because their defense is really good with Porzingis out there. And surprisingly, Jaylen Brown, I have him like, I have him taking another leap defensively. Although offensively, he won't have the same role because Porzingis is there and Derek White, he's going to be one of the best guard defenders in the league. And Tatum, he's going to be a top 3 MVP candidate, in my opinion. And I feel like he's going to take another leap in the playoffs and become a top 5 player in the league. And he'll show that this playoff run. So I have the Boston Celtics and the Nuggets making it. And who I have winning is the Boston Celtics because I believe Tatum will be in the top 3 by the end of this year. And I think he will solidify himself as the best American player in all of basketball. So I have the Celtics beating the Nuggets in 7 games.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like Tatum is if there is going to be another American player that's going to take the throne as the best in the world, it is probably going to be Jason Tatum with guys like Curry, LeBron, and KD sort of exiting their primes and the young wave of players that are coming in. So I have
Mhm.
a pretty similar prediction to you. In the West, I also picked the Nuggets because, like you said, there's just nobody that's going to stop the Nuggets and their offense. And I just think the other teams have way too many question marks. You have the Suns, who have a big three with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, and we're already seeing them not on the floor together, all three of them at the same time. Beal was out opening night against the Warriors. Both Beal and Devin Booker were out yesterday against the Lakers. And I question their depth, and I question if they, I mean, it didn't really impact them on against the Warriors, but at some point, I think them not having a true point guard, a true distributor, is going to come back to bite them a little bit. And then you look at teams like the Lakers, they looked good. They looked really good last year, and they've looked okay to start out the season, but it already looks like AD's consistency is just going to be a huge issue for them. He's like hot and cold. You never know what you're going to get from him. You basically have LeBron already having to go playoff mode just for them to beat a Suns team that was missing 2 All-Stars, and it was basically just KD and everybody else, and LeBron had to
Yep.
go all out just to win that game. And then you look at your Golden State Warriors, you got the Warriors flag in the background. The fit
Yeah.
with Chris Paul, it's a little questionable to me. And obviously when you have Steph and Clay healthy, you always have a chance, and Draymond as well. But I just think them trading Jordan Poole for Chris Paul ultimately wasn't the right decision. And then there's teams like Memphis, New Orleans, all those teams out there, the Clippers. There's just too many question marks. Well, I think the Nuggets, for the most part, retained their championship core, and then I think Nikola Jokic, based off of this first week in the season and last year's playoffs, is the best player in the league right now, and he hasn't really missed a beat in the offseason, and he looked just as good against the Lakers opening night as he did in the conference finals. So I have the Nuggets in the West. In the East, I went a little bit of a different route. Call me biased, call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
I have the Bucks making the finals. I think the duo of Dame and Giannis is going to be too much for teams in the East to overcome. We already saw last night why the Bucks made that trade. You have a close game, nip and tuck, you need buckets late in the game against the Sixers, and basically their offensive game plan was just give the ball to Dame and get out of his way. Even when you have a guy like Giannis on the team, that is such a good another option to have as the closer. Basically, Giannis is able to just play the pick and roll, get key offensive rebounds like we saw yesterday, and just let Dame cook in the clutch. And I think that is a formula that can work in the playoffs because you don't have to run the Giannis halfback dive offense against
Mhm.
playoff defenses. And so I think I have the Bucks making the finals, but in terms of who I have winning, I'm not going to pick them to win the whole thing. I think the Nuggets are going to go back to back just because the Dame and Giannis chemistry is going to take some time to figure out. I'm not sure if it's going to be all the way there this year. And I just think the Nuggets are a deeper team. They have the two best players. They have the better of the two players. I think they have the better coach. And I think they will probably or most likely have a better home court advantage in the finals if it came down to that. And if I had to pick a team that would go into somebody else's house and steal one on the road, I would have more faith in the Nuggets going into Milwaukee and taking a game versus the other way around, just because of how the two teams play in the playoffs. So I think the Nuggets are going to go back to back. It's hard to go back to back, but I
Mhm.
think if they stay healthy, I think they're going to do it, which pains me to say, but I don't see the Bucks winning it all this year. I think they will win a ring at some point with Dame and Giannis as a duo, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just my prediction.
Yeah, so the reason why I didn't pick the Milwaukee Bucks to make it to the finals is because I believe that their defense has some question marks when it comes to their perimeter defense. We have Damian Lillard. He's very nonchalant when it comes to his off-ball defense. And on-ball, he's not very good because he's limited. And I noticed that Chris Middleton, I mean, he plays decent defense in spurts, but throughout an entire playoff run, I don't know if he'll keep it up. And I just have some question marks about the stagnant offense that could possibly happen if Damian Lillard isn't hitting his shots. Because outside of the first round of the playoffs, Damian Lillard tends to drop. And I worry about Giannis and how he's gonna react to Dame missing shots in certain situations. So I wonder if Giannis and Adrian Griffin have a plan for if Dame and Giannis are just off. Because Giannis, like you said, the Giannis halfback dive isn't very optimal for their offense at all. It just doesn't work when it comes to playing some teams in the Eastern Conference, like the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. They have the personnel to neutralize that halfback dive offense. So I think I worry. I also worry about um the bench. It's a little shaky because you guys got Marjan. I feel like he's going to be your best bench piece in the playoffs. Aside from Marjan, I don't know if I'd trust anybody. Do you guys still have Wesley Matthews?
No, he signed with Atlanta. He's gone.
You're right. You guys have Jay Crowder off the bench?
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from Marjan and Jay Crowder, I worry about your backup point guard position, and I worry about who's gonna run that bench offense a little bit. So I don't have those issues with the Celtics because the way Joe Mazzulla runs their offense, it's very plug and play, and they have a bunch of bench piece connectors, like a bunch of shooters like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard sometimes can get some burn. I don't know. I just trust the Celtics a little bit more.
I feel you on that. My thing, what I worry about with the Celtics is, and I think just to talk on KP a little bit first, he looked great in his first game, 30 points. And I think what was the most impactful thing was the 4 blocks, because he's a guy that can, when he's healthy, stretch the floor, can hit shots from basically anywhere, operate like in the mid post area. I think he's good at that because he doesn't really have to handle it that much. And for a 7'3" guy to be able to dribble and hit shots over anybody in the mid post is something that is going to be very lethal. But I question whether or not he's going to be able to sustain his health throughout the season. And then just to talk about my guy Drew Holiday a little bit. I've seen him play in the playoffs for 3 years with the Bucks, and his defense is invaluable. There's no question about that. Even though he had a bad first round series against Jimmy Butler, you can see the plays that he makes on defense. I just think you're going to need to get something from him offensively in the playoffs, and his numbers in the playoffs, at least on offense, they drop tremendously. Like some games that I just remember off the top of my head, game 7 in the Nets series, he came up big late. He had a few clutch shots late, but throughout that series, you were just waiting for him to get going and give you something on offense. And then the duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I think they do work as a duo. They've got that chemistry figured out, but I just think sometimes the moment seems a little too big for them when they get deep into the playoffs, especially like in the finals against the Warriors. They had a ton of opportunities to come up clutch and they couldn't pull through and get it done. But I think Boston, top to bottom, definitely has the best roster in the East, but I'd favor Milwaukee because I think the way that they've lost in the playoffs, basically ever since Giannis hit his prime and the Bucks have been considered a championship contender, I think all of the games have been close. And then if they just had one other like lethal scorer that they could have on their team, like a Damian Lillard, and that's why they got him, that could have put them over the top in a ton of series, like the Raptors a few years ago, maybe the Heat in 2020. The Heat just kind of seemed like they were on like a magical run that year and nobody was going to stop them. So maybe that series. And then obviously they won in 2021 when they got a little bit of that with Drew, and then Chris started taking over. But they needed that against Boston in 2022 because nobody outside of Giannis could create anything. And then we saw it last year in the first round when those games were close late. They didn't really have a closer who could match Jimmy Butler when he was basically torching them, and nobody could match his production. So I think since they have that now with Dame and they'll work out that chemistry, it'll be good enough to help them win the conference. So that's why I went that route.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, like you said, the Miami Heat always have those magical runs, it seems like in the 2020 bubble. Even in 2022, when they went to game 7 versus Boston, they really pushed their limit. Even though
Yeah.
they were down like almost 20 in the fourth quarter, they almost came back and won that game.
Yeah.
They just have, I never count out Miami though. I have them as my third team in the East that could win it behind Milwaukee because, like you
Yeah.
said, and also the coaching of Eric Spoelstra just puts Miami at a higher level than any other team in the East at times because I believe Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA.
I
And
agree.
he usually gets the best out of any player you can get, like Max Strus, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent. All of those players are undrafted role players. Miami just finds a way to plug and play like these random role players that they find off the street, and they always perform and they always step up to the occasion. So
Yeah. I
Miami,
mean,
I wouldn't count them out.
yeah, no, neither would I. And it's crazy. I don't think Spo hasn't won a coach of the year, right? I don't think he has.
No.
It's crazy because I think there's no way that basically every year that the Heat have been healthy over the last 5 years, they've either, so 2020 they go to the finals, and then they were a little banged up in the first round against the Bucks, so they got swept. And then the year after they were completely healthy and were basically one missed three away from Jimmy Butler from going back to the finals. And then
Mhm.
last year they go all the way back to the finals. So I definitely think that roster is not a finals roster by any means, but I just think Spo is able to get so much out of them. And then you also have to credit the players because the players are on the court
Mhm.
doing all the work. So yeah, you can never count out Miami. And I think if they had gotten Dame in the offseason, they could arguably be, it could arguably be them and Boston, like the Heat and Celtics as the best two teams in the East. So Yeah, I mean,
Mm,
I think our predictions were pretty similar. We both have the Nuggets going to the finals, and then you're obviously splitting hairs between the Celtics and the Bucks because I think it's going to be a dogfight between those two teams down the
yeah.
stretch. But we also wanted to give our predictions for the individual awards, and we're going to
Hmm.
start out. We're going to start out with the top award. Who do you have winning MVP this season?
I have Nikola Jokic winning his third MVP in the last 4 years because I don't see anybody really stepping up to Jokic's level when it pertains to regular season play, even in playoff play. But I have Jokic winning mainly because I think the Nuggets will be a top two seed. And I believe Jokic will have a near triple double season again. I don't see him slowing down. I see him making some improvements on defense, but I see some of his playmaking going down because a full season with Jamal Murray. And I also see, yeah, like I said, his defense will take a leap because he's gonna have more opportunities to showcase his defense as they're gonna get more nationally televised games. And people will see that he's not the most athletic defender. He's gonna be swiping down at loose balls, like playing like his rugged style defense. Even though it's not consistent, it's when he plays defense in his spurts, it's very rugged. So yeah, I have him winning MVP. And should I give my second who's gonna come in second place?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I have Jason Tatum because I think the Celtics will be a top two seed in the Eastern Conference. And I think he's gonna maintain his 30 point per game status. And I think he'll take a slight step on the defensive end. And also I think his playmaking will take a step now that Marcus Smart left. And even though Drew Holiday will be the main ball handler, him and Derek White will have the main ball handle responsibilities. I believe Tatum will take a slight step playmaking wise, and I believe Tatum will also showcase his defensive skills this year. So I have him coming in second. Third, I have Luca because I think they're gonna be an eighth seed this year, the Mavericks, but I just believe Luca's gonna put up insane numbers as he usually does.
Yeah,
Like last year, he was a 32 point per game scorer, near triple double. I believe he's gonna do that again. And I just think he won't come in first place only because the Mavericks are not going to be a good enough team to make voters think that Luca deserves it this year. So yeah, I have Luca third.
for sure. For my picks for my first slot, who I think is gonna win it, I'm not sure how realistic this is, but I'm gonna go with Giannis. I think he is gonna win his third MVP. Just based off of what happened last year, I also think the Bucks are gonna be a top two seed in the East, whether they're one or two. I'm not sure, but I think them losing in the first round last year and coming back in the regular season, I think he didn't look that great yesterday. Only 23 points on not great efficiency at all for his standards, lower than 50%. But I think as the season goes on, his numbers will be similar to, or maybe just a notch below what they were last year. I think he can still put up like 30 points, easily over 10 rebounds, and then like 5 assists. And I think just the storyline of them losing in the first round last year, getting Dame on the team is going to help his case a little bit, but I could also see how that would hurt him because of those candidates. I think the Bucks easily have a big three between Giannis, Dame Lillard, and Middleton. I just think Giannis is going to put up really good numbers, and I think he'll get his efficiency back up from what it was last year because he wasn't that efficient last year. He still has to improve at the free throw line. Another poor free throw shooting display last night, but I think he can put up a good enough case to go head to head with Jokic for that MVP. I think he's third in the odds right now, so
Mhm.
it's not that realistic, but I think he's gonna win it this year if he plays. Uh, well, because he has to play at least there's a rule now where you have to play like at least what, like 65
Yep,
games or
65.
something to be eligible for these awards. And I don't think he got that last year. I think he only played like
Mhm.
62, 63 games or something like that. He missed a good amount of games last year. So I think he had the knee surgery in the offseason. I think he's going to come back a little bit better, healthier, shake that rust off and play enough games to where his numbers will um qualify him for the award this year. And
Mhm.
then I guess who I would have 2 and 3, I would probably honestly pick the same guys you did, Tatum and Luka, because I think, like you said, Tatum is gonna have he's gonna be the best player on the Celtics, and they're gonna be a top seed in the East, and he's
Mhm.
gonna have a great season. And then Luka, same thing. He's gonna put up numbers to where you can't not at least consider him for the MVP. And yeah,
Mhm.
I don't want to repeat what you said, but I basically have those guys in the 2 and 3 spot as well.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to say Giannis because in the case of Damian Lillard and Giannis being on the same team, I see a repeat of what happened in Golden State between KD and Steph. I just think that those two players are too good to win an MVP because of how similar they are in importance for their team and in talent level and how they rank amongst the players in the league. So I just don't see two top 10 players on the same team and one of them winning MVP because of that. And but I think Giannis will finish top 5 in the voting because he's gonna have a monstrous year. I just see his numbers going down though, but I see his efficiency going up. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
also don't want to repeat what you said. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I noticed just before we move on to the next award, none of us had Joel Embiid, the reigning
Mhm.
MVP, in the top three. What very quickly do you think he doesn't have a good shot of repeating?
I just I just think that Embiid's season is gonna take a hit because James Harden won't be there, it seems like, for the season. And I just think that there's heavy voter fatigue amongst Embiid right now because a lot of people voted Jokic. And after this playoff showing, a lot of people think that Jokic is now better than Embiid because of the propaganda that was pushed, mainly because of Kendrick Perkins, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But yeah, I just think also Embiid is a notorious playoff dropper. So I don't think the voters are gonna want to vote for Embiid unless he has some postseason success. And the three MVP candidates that I have, Jokic, Tatum, and Luka, they've all showed that they've stepped up in moments in the playoffs. And I don't think Embiid has shown any signs of him taking over any playoff series or having any good playoff moments in the playoff runs. So yeah, I don't see Embiid winning an MVP until that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much think the same thing. I think for someone to even repeat, like in general, like regardless of playoff success for MVP, you have to have a season that's a lot better than what you previously did to like be in consideration for that. And when you look at back-to-back MVP winners, Steph Curry, Giannis, Jokic, that second season that they won it, their regular season production was vastly improved
Improve. Yeah.
from the first time they won it. And they had not well, in some cases, like Steph Curry went all the way to the finals, 73-9, unanimous MVP. You knew he was going to win that. Giannis,
Mhm.
even though they lost to the Raptors in the conference finals and he was pretty bad those last 4 games, he upped his numbers significantly from the previous year. And the Bucks record before the season stopped, they were pretty close to being on pace for 70 wins. And so that was a lot better
Mhm.
than what they did the previous year. And then Jokic winning back-to-back MVPs that second year. Did he average a triple double in the
N- No, he didn't average a triple double, but he did carry them pretty hard.
yeah, right. I
Their team
remember
was
now.
not
Yeah,
good
they
at
were
all.
missing Jamal Murray, no
Yeah.
MPJ, carried them to the playoffs. So yeah, I just don't see Embiid having a season like if he leads the league in scoring again, maybe he'll have a chance, but the Sixers record isn't going to be as good as it was last year because like you said Harden might not be there. So, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
Embiid's a great player, but I just think, like you said, a lot of people thought that he shouldn't have won it last year. I'm one of them. I would have given it to Jokic or Giannis, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. And so for the next award, I want to get your thoughts on Defensive Player of the Year. Who do you have winning that?
Okay, so my defensive player of the year winner is going to be Anthony Davis. I believe that Anthony Davis is the best defender in the league. I think that's a consensus. And I just think that the Lakers are going to be a top five seed in the West, and they're going to be one of the best defenses, all just because of AD. AD is probably the most skilled defender. He can switch on to guards, wings, and bigs. He's probably one of the better help side defenders in the league as well. And he's gonna lead this Laker team to a very good record. And probably he's probably gonna lead the league in blocks this year, either him or Triple J. And I also think that his rebounding will play a huge factor in him leading the league in rebounds again if he plays a full 65 games. So I just think AD and his defense is gonna be showcased this year, and yeah, I have him winning it. I have second though. I have Evan Mobley. I think he's gonna take another leap as a player this year. He's gonna be an all-star caliber player in my opinion. I also think that the Cavs defense will be one of the best in the league. They have a really good defensive personnel with him, Jared Allen. Although the guards is kind of iffy, they have decent wing defenders like Isaac Okoro. And that just helps having good defensive personnel. It just helps your best defensive candidates for winning defensive player of the year. And for third, I have Giannis. I pick Giannis because the Bucks always have a good defense every year. They're always one of the best. And I think the Bucks being a number one seed, in my opinion, this year will help. I think that they're going to be just head and shoulders above everybody in the Eastern Conference this year when it pertains to regular season play. And their defense is going to be one of the best. They have good defensive personnel as well, like Brook Lopez, Jay Crowder. Even though their guard defense isn't as good, like similar to the Cavs on defense, they have two twin tower bigs, and then they have decent wing defenders, and then kind of bad guard play, but on defense, but I think Giannis will lead the Bucks to a top five defense in the league. So yeah, what do you have as your defensive player of the year candidates?
Yeah, no, those are all good picks. I went a little different. Maybe kind of a wild card pick, but for my Defensive Player of the Year, I'm gonna go with Bam Adebayo. I think Bam has been pretty underrated as a defender. I feel like he's not recognized as one of the consensus best defensive players in the league, even though he's been to
Mhm.
the finals twice. So he's gotten the opportunity to do it on a big stage. But I just think his versatility as a defender to be able to guard basically every position. He's great with his feet. He can move. He can bump with guys down low. I think he's gonna have a big defensive season for the Heat, who are always a good defensive team just because of how physical and scrappy they are. And I
Mhm.
mostly just wanted to pick a different player from what people are picking. So I went with Bam for number one. And then
Mhm.
for number two, I have Giannis. I think he's gonna have an opportunity, like you said, to have a great defensive season. And the way he's been playing defense throughout the last few years, and when he won Defensive Player of the Year in 2020, it's mostly that free safety role coming in as a help defender and contesting shots at the rim. But I think with Adrian Griffin as the new head coach, I think he's gonna get a lot more opportunities to play on the ball more. And we saw it a little bit yesterday because he was guarding he took the matchup against Joel Embiid in a lot of spots yesterday, and he did a relatively good job on him. And so I think him having more opportunities to showcase his versatility on defense is gonna allow him to be up there in the rankings. And then I think for number three, I would also go with Anthony Davis because I think if he can stay healthy, he is him, Jaren Jackson Jr. Those guys are some of the best defensive anchors in the league. But I just think AD is a little bit more versatile as a defender, and I think with the Lakers being a big market team, the media will gladly give Anthony Davis a defensive player of the year. And considering that a lot of people thought he should have won that award in 2020 when Giannis got it, but I think he's going to have a big season defensively if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Bam is a good pick too. I just feel like the Miami Heat, they're not going to finish at the top of their conference again. I feel like seeding plays into effect when it comes to defensive player of the year, which is why Triple J got it. Usually the top defensive teams are usually up there on the seeding, like top five. They're usually top five in the conference. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like um Giannis was a good pick too. Yeah, what you said about Giannis and his versatility being showed last night, especially against Embiid. That was a really good showing. I really enjoyed watching him playing defense on Embiid last night. So yeah,
Yeah. And then we both already talked about Anthony Davis. Um, so for the next award, let's go with Coach of the Year. Who do you have?
I have a wild card pick. I think I have JB Bickerstaff of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that Cleveland is going to finish as a top four team in the Eastern Conference. And I think Donovan Mitchell is going to lead them to that mainly. I think he'll be an all NBA first or second team player this year, like he should have been last year. I think he was all NBA second team last year, but some
Yeah, I
people
think
say
that's
he
what it
should have been,
was.
yeah. Some people say he should have been first team over SGA, but that's debatable. No, neither here nor there. But I think Darius Garland's going to take a leap playmaking wise, and I like their personnel a lot with the additions of Max Strus, and they really needed that wing shooting because Isaac Okoro, when when the Cavs were missing their shots a lot, it was mainly in the lineups with Isaac Okoro as their three and Max Strus spreading the floor for Mitchell and Garland to operate on the floor with the ball in their hands. That's going to help them because they're going to have that threat of Strus in the corner or in the wing. And I think Mobley's going to take a step offensively this year, or he should, in order for them to be a top four seed. So yeah, for number two though, I have Mark Daigneault of the OKC Thunder. I think the Thunder are going to be uh I think they're going to be a playoff team this year. And in order for them to be a playoff team, this team is going to have to improve. But I see the improvement with Chet at center this year. Chet is going to be really instrumental for them, especially on the defensive end. And I think SGA is going to be another elite point guard this year. Josh Giddey, I worry about Josh Giddey's offensive bag at times because his playmaking is always going to be there. He's one of the best playmakers in the NBA, but his threat to score is kind of non-existent at times, and sometimes that'll hurt the offense for the OKC Thunder. So I wonder if OKC is gonna manage that correctly, if Josh Giddey's gonna make improvements, especially with his shooting. But I see their role players all stepping up and taking a leap, like J-Dub, Jalen Williams. He's gonna be one of the best second year players in the league. I see Lou Dort being a better wing defender in the NBA. And I see their bench taking some leaps too with uh Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Aaron Wiggins off the top of my head. They have some more role players that are going to be stepping up. The other Jalen Williams, backup center, he started for them last year. So I think with Chet starting this year, he's going to have the confidence and drive to be one of the better backup centers in the NBA. So I have Mark Daigneault at two. And number three, I have Adrian Griffin for the Milwaukee Bucks because, again, I think the Bucks will be number one seed. And by default, I think Adrian Griffin will be top three in coach of the year voting. And that's mainly because, Giannis and Dame are going to take over a lot of games in the regular season this year. So, and their defense is going to be really good. So, yeah, I have those three as my coaches of the year. How about you?
Yeah, all really great picks. For my top coach of the year, I'm gonna also go. Well, not also. You had him second, but I'm gonna go with Mark Daigneault of the OKC Thunder, just because I think OKC's roster, they're kind of ahead of schedule, I think, because they made the play-in tournament last year, almost made the
Mhm.
playoffs. I can see them being a playoff team this year and causing a lot of problems for a top seed. Maybe in like a 1-8 or 2-7 matchup in the first round, they can get a game or two off the top seed and just continue to build on what they did last year. And their roster all around is really good. You highlighted some of the things they need to improve on and some of the things that they already do really well. So I'm not going to repeat what you said, but I just think he's done a really good job with this roster and getting Chet Holmgren back healthy. We saw in the preseason what he's capable of doing and adding to this team. And when you think about it, they did all that they did last year without him. So when you add him
Mhm.
to the equation, I think it just makes the Thunder a really formidable team in the regular season this year and a team that can get scrappy in the first round of the playoffs if they do make it there. But I think they will. And for my second place pick, I'm gonna go with Eric Spoelstra. I'm not sure how realistic it is that he actually wins it because he hasn't won one yet, which I don't really understand. But the Heat coming into this season, I could argue that they really didn't get better in the offseason. They lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, two players who were critical um, for them going to the finals twice in the last few years. And I think they lost out on Damian Lillard. They lost out on Drew Holiday. So it's going to be a lot more of Jimmy Butler having to carry the load. They're getting Tyler Hero back after he broke his hand in the playoffs. So he's going to be a plus, obviously. But I think the Heat are going to be in that same situation where they may struggle or they may overachieve in the regular season, finish in that playoff race. And I just don't think with the current roster that they have now, I just don't think there's a reason that they should be as good. Like they don't even have a top like 8 roster in the East, I think, in my opinion. But I think they'll still find a way to sneak into the playoffs and cause problems just like they did last year. So that's why I have him at number 2. And I think the reason that they would do that is because of Eric Spoelstra's coaching. I would give him his coaching more credit more than I would the player's performance on the court, even though they both deserve credit. But I think to pull a roster like that to the playoffs, you have to have really good coaching, and that's what the Heat have. And so
Mhm.
for my third place vote, this is also kind of a wild card. A lot is dependent on health for this, but I'm gonna go with Willie Brown of the Pelicans. I think if the Pelicans can stay healthy this year, remember last year when Zion was healthy and playing and they had BI, he was actually out for a while because of like a toe injury, but they were the number one seed for like the
Yeah.
first few weeks of the season. And I think if they can maintain their health with the roster they have around Zion, BI, CJ, Herb Jones, even guys like Jose Alvarado, sneaky good defenders, I think they can make a lot of noise in the West. And especially when you have teams like the Clippers who are going to probably deal with the injury bug again this year. You have the Lakers who are kind of like up in the air. Anthony Davis, is he going to be great tonight? Is he going to put up another stinker? I think the Pelicans have a great shot to be at the top of the West like they were last year if they can stay healthy. And so I think Willie Brown is going to have maybe kind of like a Mike Brown season last year. The Kings roster I don't think is as good as it's not as top heavy as New Orleans, obviously. But I think what you look at, I think they Pelicans can have a similar season to what Sacramento had last year if they have all their guys healthy.
I would think that the Pelicans would be a really good team this year. I just don't know if Zion's going to be healthy for the entire season.
Yeah,
I
that's the
always
thing.
worry about his health. But Willie Green's a good pick. Yeah. I think Willie Green's one of the better coaches in the Western Conference. He gets a lot out of BI and Zion. I just don't know how their offense is going to be this year with CJ at the point. I worry about their playmaking sometimes because they don't have like a true point guard. Kind of similar issue with the Phoenix Suns. But I think CJ McCollum could take the helm of the point guard spot and they'll be fine. They can run point guard by committee. But yeah, the Willie Green, he's one of the better offensive coaches in the league. He runs a lot of schemes where Zion is getting the ball in the post, and he never has Zion really out on the perimeter, which is really good because I feel like that's an offensive scheme that Adrian Griffin should run uh for the Milwaukee Bucks. To have Giannis in the post, like get the ball and have the other players screen and operate cuts. But yeah, Willie Green's a good pick. I was gonna say Willie Green, but again, I don't know how healthy they're gonna be this year. BI has injury issues, CJ has injury issues, Zion, obviously we know. And yeah.
Yeah,
What's the next award we're gonna talk
I
about?
said Willie Brown. I meant to say Willie Green. I don't know why I got his name wrong. I guess I was thinking about football for some reason. I meant Willie Green. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
all
think
good, bro.
all those coaches are good. It'll be interesting to see who wins it. And so let's go with rookie of the year next. Who do you have for rookie of the year?
I have a cliche pick. I have Wemby. I think Wemby's gonna be a 20-6 guy this year. I think his offense is gonna come around this year, and his defense is gonna be amazing. I think he'll get an all defensive second year vote this year. I think he's gonna be an all defensive second year team player. And I think that's mainly gonna be the driving force to him winning rookie of the year and leading the Spurs to one of the best defenses in the league. I I worry about his health because of his frame. Same issues I have with Chet, which I have a number two, but I have Wemby winning it because he's gonna be an offensive monster. I think he's gonna be a 20 point per game scorer. And I think his defense, he's probably already a top five defender in the league right now. And that's gonna play into effect his rookie of the year voting. So I have Wemby at one. Number two, I have Chet. Similar reasons for Wemby. His offense is going to come around a little bit later in the season. He's going to be probably a top 10 defender in the league as well. He's going to be one of the better rebounders in the league, I believe, because he's known for having a small frame, but he's also a very sneaky good rebounder, and he might be able to get a double double this year. So him having a double double as a rookie will probably help his case. He might be in range from a 12 to 16 point per game score his rookie year. I don't know if his offense will come around that much, but he's a really good shooter. He can play in the post a little bit. He just has a tough time backing down other defenders that are like bigger and stronger. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have Chet at two. Number three, I have a very controversial pick, but I have Asar Thompson from the
Okay.
Detroit Pistons. So I think Asar Thompson's going to be a one of the best wing defenders in the NBA already, straight out the gate. We saw his first game against the Miami Heat. He had 5 blocks,
I think
which is
that
pretty
not to
impressive.
cut you off, but I think those 5 blocks are the most by like a non-center in
Yep.
anybody's first game ever. So
Yeah, it was the most since Sean Bradley in their debut games. So I think his defense is really gonna be a driving force for his rookie of the year voting. His shooting, I think it'll come around later towards the season. He's not used to the 3 point line from the OTE arena games. Their 3 point line is similar to college, so Asar Thompson, he's going to be one of the better defenders as a rookie. He's going to be a decent playmaker. He's going to be getting a lot of transition points this year because the Pistons are going to have a decent offense with Cade at the helm. And I think Cade's playmaking will play into a factor of Asar Thompson getting a rookie of the year vote. So, yeah.
yeah, solid picks. I have two out of the three guys you have. But I have them in a different order. I have Chet as my number one rookie of the year because I think him not playing a full season last year, coming back and being healthy and showcasing what he did in the preseason is making a lot of people excited for what he can do with the Thunder this year. And I think that storyline itself is going to give him a big boost when it comes to the voters because the media, a lot of award voters are narrative based voters, and I don't really like that, but that's just kind of how the media operates when it comes to some of these awards. So I think him not being healthy last year and coming back, and we saw like the head-to-head battle with him and Wemby, and both of them held their own against each other. And I also think that the Thunder having a better record than the Spurs could help him a little bit. I don't think it'll be that much of a factor just because Wemby is he's already such a big name. And so everybody's going to be tuning into the Spurs. And I think if he plays the way people think, like if he has a rookie season, like if he put up like rookie LeBron numbers in his first year, I think that could be enough to get Wemby rookie of the year just based off of the hype that he's gotten. But I just think if I was voting on the award, I would pick Chet Holmgren as mine just because I think the Thunder are going to have a better record and he's going to have more opportunities to showcase his skills throughout the season. Health is obviously a big factor there. And I think something that maybe helps Wemby and hurts Chet is that Chet obviously has a better team around him. So his numbers maybe won't be as good as Wemby's because he's not going to have as much responsibility on the offensive side. But yeah, and I just think Chet, his potential on the defensive end is there as well. And then number 2, I have Wemby. It's pretty obvious. I think him being the number 1 overall pick, all the hype he's getting, he's going to put up great numbers with the Spurs this year. I'm not sure how good their record is going to be, but people are going to be filling the seats every night in arenas to watch him play. And if he stays healthy and puts up, like I said, like you said, like 20-6, something like that this year, I think he will definitely have a great shot at winning Rookie of the Year. And then for my third pick, I guess I went with the more mainstream pick. I have Scoot Henderson because he's the guy in Portland now. They're going to be building that franchise around him, and he's going to have a great opportunity to showcase what he can do. He coming into the draft, he looked NBA ready, like in terms of his frame, his size. I think he'll be able to adjust to the game a lot better, like a lot quicker than maybe a Chet or Wemby, just because the NBA regular season is so up and down. And I think Scoot is built perfectly for that type of play and that style. And so, yeah, that's essentially why I have him third. But Asar Thompson, that was a good pick. That kind of threw me off a little bit.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was a good pick.
Yeah. I was gonna say Scoot Henderson, but I worry that the Blazers again, they won't finish very good in their conference. And
Yeah,
I worry
yeah.
about Scoot's offensive bag in the half court offense and how he's gonna operate with him and Anthony Simons sharing the backcourt. I don't know how much ball handle responsibility he'll have. But again, he's gonna adjust to the NBA very quickly. He has an NBA ready body already, and he's probably the most athletic guard that we've seen since John Morant in the top 5. So yeah, he's gonna be a really good rookie this year. Him and Asar Thompson were battling for my third position.
Yeah. All right. And so I think this is the last individual award that I have us talking about. But let's go with most improved. What's your list for that?
All right, so at number 1, I have Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons.
That's a good pick. That's a
I
great
think
pick.
I think Cade is gonna take a monstrous leap this year, especially from last year. He only played 12 games, but in those 12 games that they played, the Detroit Pistons were a playoff team. And I think that's going to translate over to this year. I don't think they will be a playoff team, but they will be on the cusp of making it. So Cade is going to be an all-star this year, I believe. We saw it against the Miami Heat. Was that last night or 2 days
I think
ago?
2 days ago. But like, yeah, 30 points. I don't think he didn't shoot any free throws either. I think it was
No,
just
no free
all
throws.
buckets.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the best point guards in the Eastern Conference. He's going to be in those conversations with the Tyrese Halliburton and Darius Garland this year. And he's going to take a playmaking leap that'll put him on the levels with them. And as I think his scoring will come around as well. And I also think the Pistons are gonna be one of the better offenses with the young talents of Cade, Jaden Ivey. Even though Killian Hayes is in the starting lineup, Monty Williams, what are you doing? Bring him off the bench already. He's not a good offensive player. He's not a good player in general. Anyway, but Cade is gonna be one of the best. He's gonna be one of the most improved players this year. I have him winning it because again, he was injured last year, and I think his injury last year kind of put him under a lot of people's radar. A lot of people forgot that he existed. So yeah, I have him winning most improved. For my second pick, I have Tyrese Maxey. I just think that the absence of Harden will make Tyrese Maxey's role more important for the Philly this year. I just worry that he has an injury history. I don't know how well they're gonna use Tyrese Maxey as the main ball handler, but when he was the main ball handler, when Harden was hurt, he was always putting up 20, 25 plus per game. So I have him at second. For number three, I have a kind of a biased pick. I have Ben Simmons. I think that Ben Simmons is gonna bounce back. He had a very bad back injury last year, and I think a lot of people already hate on Ben Simmons from the time that he spent in Philly and what happened between him and the front office and him not playing. So I have Ben Simmons bouncing back and being having a Draymond-esque season. He's not going to be putting up 10 points a game. I'll have him at like 9, around 8 and 7. But he's going to be one of the best defenders in the league. He's going to be leading that Brooklyn team on their defensive side, him and Nick Claxton. But I have Simmons winning third place in the most improved player race. He's going to be he's not going to be good offensively this year. I just have him like bouncing back from the bad season that he had last year.
Yeah, for sure. Solid picks there. For my picks, number one, I'm gonna go with one of the guys you said. I have Tyrese Maxey as my first pick, and I just think it's just gonna be the amount of freedom he's gonna have as a ball handler with James Harden most likely potentially not being on the team this season. And we saw it last night. He dropped 31 on the Bucks, and really I think he was really the only reason they were even in that game for a
Mhm.
majority of the night. And he is just a really good shot creator, shot maker. Once he gets the facilitating down, getting his teammates involved, I think he's going to be a really good player in the league. And I think if Harden doesn't play this year, I think Maxey's numbers are going to be so good that you're going to have to pencil him in as an all-star this year, at least one of the reserves. I think he's that good of a player, and I think he has most improved player potential. For my second pick, I'm gonna go with I don't know if it's a wild card, but I'm gonna pick Keegan Murray from the Sacramento
Mm.
Kings. I think he had a tremendous rookie season and heavily contributed to the Kings sort of reviving themselves. They were pretty much the laughing stock of the NBA over the last they've been that way for probably like as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, for
Both
our
of us have
entire
been
life.
alive. So, and then last year was the only season since at least since I've been watching basketball where they've been competitive. They were fun to watch. They were really good. He set the record for most 3-pointers by a rookie. He made over 200 threes. And I'm pretty sure he drop like 40 in a summer league game this
Mm-hmm.
year. I don't know why he's playing in the summer league, but he dropped 40. So I think he's ready to come back and have an even bigger role with the Kings than he had last year with led by Fox and Sabonis. I think he can really step up and solidify himself as that third option on offense. And then for my last pick, I'm gonna go with another Blazer. It'll be hard. It's probably not realistic because their record is not gonna be good. They'll be at the bottom of the West most likely. But I'm gonna go with Anthony Simons, and for some
Mm.
of the same reasons that I picked Scoot Henderson for Rookie of the Year. I just think Dame not being there, he's gonna have that opportunity to really come into his own as a player. And we saw it last year, even when Dame was there, he had performances where he showcased his potential and showed himself as a piece that you can build your team around. And I think he has to shoot the ball better. His shooting percentage was like around 42% last year. He's got to shoot it a little bit better, get more efficient. But I think he'll have an opportunity to do that this year because he'll be able to get into a rhythm quickly, more quickly because he'll have the ball in his hands a lot more. So those are my picks for most improved.
Yeah, those are some solid picks. Keegan Murray is a good pick. I think that he's gonna be up there too because he's gonna take more responsibility from Harrison Barnes this year. I think Harrison Barnes will take a step back offensively a little bit. He's gonna focus more on defense because that's what Sacramento needs more. And yeah, Keegan Murray's gonna take that. He's gonna take that scoring lead for sure. And I just think that Sacramento's gonna finish with a really high seed again this year. So that's gonna help his case a lot for sure. And Anthony Simons is a decent pick too. I just think that he's gonna have a lot of opportunity, like you said, because Dame's not there. I wonder how that's backcourt's gonna work because Scoot Henderson being the main ball handler and Anthony Simons playing off the ball is how the Blazers should work. I just know if I just don't know if that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But I think Simons is a good pick. His percentages need to increase, and his scoring output's going to be up there again. When Dame wasn't playing, I believe he was a 25 point per game scorer. So he's going to be one of the best point guards in the or Western Conference. Sorry. He's going to be up there scoring wise. So yeah, those are some good picks.
for sure. And then, so I think those are all of the awards that I think we made lists and predictions for.
Mhm.
So I want to pose a debate question for you. Who, in your opinion, which player would you say has the most pressure on them this season?
I made a list of that. So I have three players in mind, but the first one that comes to mind is Joel Embiid. I think Embiid needs to take his team past the second round or else the process is over. I don't see how the process is going to work with Embiid, Maxey, and Harris. Tobias Harris, he's on too big of a contract for him not to be an all-star level player. And Maxey's going to be good for them. I just think Embiid needs to stay healthy. We've never seen a healthy Joel Embiid in the playoffs. I don't think ever. Maybe 2020 in the bubble, but that was when Ben Simmons was hurt.
Yeah.
So I just think Joel Embiid needs to stay healthy for the 76ers this year, and he needs to step up in the playoffs because year after year we see him getting bounced out in the second round, whether it's to the Celtics, to the Heat, and it just doesn't make sense why he hasn't been out the second round. I just don't know why are you an MVP candidate player that can't lead his team past to the second round? I just can't get over that. The second round is just like his worst nightmare.
Yeah. He's too good. Like he's too good a player, like the caliber player that he is to at least not have made a conference finals yet.
Yeah. So I have another player in mind though. I have AD second. I just think a lot of pressure is going to be coming from the Laker fans or the Laker media cartel, like people like to put it. But he's going to have a lot of pressure to step up and be the best player in LA as LeBron takes a step back with his age. LeBron shouldn't be taking over games like he did against the Phoenix Suns. That should really be Anthony Davis. He he needs to be a better offensive player and more consistent in order for this Laker team to succeed. So I have AD at two. Number three is it's a wild card pick in my opinion, but I have Carl Anthony Towns. I think this Minnesota team is going to struggle this year. They're going to have Cat step up in order for them to succeed. Last year, Cat was not a great offensive player for them. Surprisingly, because he's one of the more skilled offensive players in the league. And I think if Cat isn't working out for them at the four spot this year, they're going to have to look to trade him because Anthony Edwards is going to need a reason to stay in Minnesota. And if Cat is there, I think he's going to mess up Anthony Edwards' development because he demands so much on the offensive end, but provides little to nothing on defense.
Yeah,
So Cat is one of the picks I have for the most pressure, but Embiid is gonna stay at my one spot. So
for sure. Great list. I also made a list of guys who I think have the most pressure on them. Number one, this may be a shocker, but I'm just gonna kick it off. I think it's Damian Lillard because he spent 11 years with the Blazers, put up a lot of great numbers, had 40-point games, 50-point games, 60 and 70-point games, and wasn't able to produce, like you said, in the later rounds of the playoffs. The one year where the Blazers actually had maybe a legitimate shot to win the championship was in 2019 when they went to the conference finals, and you got to play a Warriors team that didn't have Kevin Durant. So the two teams matchup wise were, I won't say even, but they were
It was
relatively,
pretty
it
close.
was winnable. Like, and you couldn't get one game off the Warriors. That was pretty disappointing. And so everyone's been singing his praises, saying that if he was, I know this is, you definitely don't agree with this, but if you were to like plug him into the Warriors system and take Steph Curry out, they would still have the same dynasty. And so, like, now's
Mm.
his chance to prove that on the Bucks. You put him on a team with Giannis. If they don't win a championship, I don't think they have to win a championship this year because now that they have Giannis extended long term, I think they have more time to. It's not as like the sense of urgency to win a championship this season isn't going to be as high just because they have both of those guys locked up long term. It's still high just because their roster overall is relatively still pretty old. They got a little bit younger in the draft, but the guys that are going to be giving them significant minutes in the playoffs are still going to be relatively on the older side. But Dame has to step
Mm.
up in the playoffs and be great in all the rounds leading up to the finals if they were to make it there. And then if they match up against the Celtics and he goes against Drew Holiday, again, we remember what happened the last time that he went up against Drew Holiday in a playoff series. It did not end well for him. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to basically prove to the fans that he is up there with some of the best players all time. He's an all-time great player. He's up there with some of those guys, definitely ability wise. He just needs to be in the right situation to have an opportunity to compete on the big stage year in and year out. And I think he has that now, and he has to
Mhm.
come through this year. And last night was a great start, coming up big in the clutch when they needed him to, when the offense wasn't really working. So I would have Damian Lillard at number one. Number two, I have Jason Tatum just because I think,
Mm.
um, like you said, we both have him up there for MVP candidacy, in our top two. And I think, um, Tatum's situation has been unique because, and this doesn't happen really ever, like besides guys like Magic Johnson. And basically, the second Jason Tatum got drafted and stepped foot into the league, he's been on a championship contending team. He's never had to go through these seasons where you only win like 20 games. Like I think of guys like Devin Booker who had like multiple 20 under 20 wins in Phoenix. He really had to survive like the rebuild and see them build their team all the way up. Guys like Giannis, who when they entered the league, the Bucks were nothing, one of the worst teams in the league. LeBron with
Yeah.
the Cavs.
Yeah.
The Celtics were coming off a conference finals loss when Tatum got drafted there. So they've been in championship contending status year in and year out. And if Tatum's going to take that leap and become, like you said, the next best American player, or even just the best player in the NBA in general, this year is the year to do it because I don't think he's not going to have, the roster that he has this year is not, it's the best. It's the best roster that Tatum has had ever since he's been into the league. Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Drew Holiday. You still have Al Horford too down there low protecting the paint, and you already have a finals loss on your resume. You did it. You lost to an eighth seed in the conference finals, albeit the Heat were having a great playoff run, and it seems like nobody was going to stop them until they played the Nuggets. But you still should have beaten Miami if you're Boston. There's no reason you should have been down 0-3 in the first place. And so this is a big year because Missoula's in year two. The Celtics have done everything they can to surround him with a roster that he needs to win. So I think this year's the year they got to do it. I think they're already the favorites in some sports books to like win the whole thing, but it's all going to come down to how well Jason Tatum can play in the playoffs, because at the end of the day, he is their best player and he's had countless opportunities to come through and get over the hump. And they haven't done it yet. He's still young, but I think this year is the year where if they're going to get it done, it's got to be this year just because of what they have around him. And so for
Mhm.
my last pick, I think this is pretty interesting, and I'm wondering what your reaction to this is going to be. It's kind of a wild card, but I'm going to go with Chris Paul because I think this is the
Mm.
last, like, this is it for Chris Paul. Like, if he doesn't work with the Warriors, we already have people saying that he's washed. He gets hurt every single postseason, and he gets traded to the Wizards in the Bradley Beal trade, and then they ship him to Golden State. The Wizards get Jordan Poole. The Warriors traded a guy that was a huge contributor to the 2022 championship team. And I think once the whole punch in the face incident happened with Draymond, like, he was done. Their chemistry was not going to get solved. And it looked like, based off of reports, they didn't want to solve that chemistry. And so you already have people saying that when that trade went down, I'm sure most Warriors fans were not thrilled with that, including you, because if the
I was
fit
not
just didn't
happy at all.
work, especially when we had reports saying that there's no way he's coming off the bench. He's going to start. We're wondering how that's going to work. And I think if the Warriors don't, I think Chris Paul is going to be relied upon heavily to sort of anchor that second unit when Steph isn't on the court. And I think he needs to come through and basically show people that he's still worthy of being like on an NBA roster, because when you look at the odds are just stacked against him. He's a older player. He's a miniature point guard. So, and he can't really compete with the up and down pace in the NBA. So I think this is a big season for Chris Paul because they traded Jordan Poole, a young up and coming scorer, to basically the Wizards, where he's going to have his own team, and who knows how good he's going to be by himself there with Kyle Kuzma. And they traded him for Chris Paul, who only has so many years left. And like Jason Tatum already has a finals loss on his resume, still searching for that first championship. I'm not sure he's going to get it on the Warriors, but he can't be the reason that they get eliminated from the playoffs because he's either injured or the fit just doesn't work with the team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Chris Paul dynamic is going to work.
Yeah, Chris Paul is a good pick. Yeah. He has a lot of pressure on him for sure. I just think that he's past the point in his career where he's gonna be seen as one of the better players in the league. So I don't think there's gonna be that much pressure on him. Also, I feel like there's not gonna be too much pressure on him because a lot of people overlook the Golden State Warriors and are overlooking them right now. So the pressure for Chris Paul is there's gonna be some, but I don't see it being on the level of somebody like Anthony Davis. I I think Anthony Davis is just gonna be more seen in the public eye as he's a part of the Lakers. They're probably the biggest fan base in all of sports right now, and I think AD is just gonna be seen as more important for the Lakers. So he's gonna have more pressure on him, and I think Cat generally is gonna have more pressure on him because the I think it's make it or break it right now for the Timberwolves. So,
Yeah.
uh, your second pick, what was your second pick
I
again?
picked Jason Tatum.
Tatum, yeah, yeah. Tatum's a good pick too. I just think, um, there's not going to be as much pressure on Tatum because he's at the point in his career where he has an extended championship window. He has a very big window for him to win a championship right now. So I I see that window closing as soon as there's talks about re-signing players like Jalen Brown again after his big contract's up, Porzingis and Drew Holiday and his age. I don't know if he's going to retire in 2 years, like you said, but yeah, Tatum has a lot of pressure on him as well this year. That's a good pick. I generally agree with your list.
For sure. And then that's all. I think that's all we have for basketball. That's all the stuff I had. So, as promised, I'm gonna let you talk about the Niners. Both of us are big football fans. I'm a Green
Mhm.
Bay fan. They're not looking too good right now. But
Yeah,
Davon, you are a Niners fan, and so
through and through.
two losses in a row. Um, you have some thoughts about the team.
Uh,
the floor is yours. I'm just gonna let you cook.
First of all, Steve Wilkes, I'm gonna need you to look at your defensive personnel again because you have Nick Bosa playing in flat coverages. Why is Nick Bosa not rushing the quarterback every single play? That's just one. Number two, why are we also running six-man blitzes when it's 1 minute left in the freaking second quarter? And not the Timberwolves, the Vikings get a freaking chance to score. Like why are you giving them opportunities? Why are we not playing safe coverages? Why are we not letting them stay in front of us? Why are we letting our cornerbacks get blown by? Why is Charvarius Ward in single man coverage with KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison? I don't get it. Why are we not having Tashawn Gibson and Hufanga helping? They're some of the best safeties in the league. That's just one, bro. Number two, I think Kyle Shanahan needs to stop running some trickery plays because some of them have been getting blown up. I think they're starting to figure out how Kyle Shanahan's running his offenses. And I think I just know I don't it just sucks that Debo's hurt right now. Debo being hurt and Christian McCaffrey having injury issues, it sucks. Trent Williams being out, it sucks. Kittle's stepping up right now, which we need from him. Our offense is gonna be fine. I don't know. Brock Purdy, I think he had a concussion in the middle of the game. So I think I read a stat after his concussion, he threw the ball like 2 of 6 and like 2 picks. So I'm not gonna really blame that game on Brock Purdy. I just hope he gets better. The reason why he got his concussion is because our offensive line has been struggling. We got rid of Mike McGlinchey. Trent Williams is hurt, and it just hasn't been looking good for us right now. So, but our defense, come on, guys, do better, please. Fred Warner can't be our only savior on defense. He's out there looking like prime Troy Polamalu right now. It's actually insane. He's getting every tackle. He's playing coverages on the best tight ends in the league. TJ Hawkinson, he's one of the best. Why is he playing? Why is he our only defender playing good? I just don't like Steve Wilkes right now. He's on my hit list for terrorist of the year. So
Yeah, I mean
I,
a bunch a bunch of stuff there. And then when I look at the Niners schedule, it doesn't really get easier. You guys got the
nope.
Bengals on Sunday, and then you go on the road to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's always like a weird place to play because you never know if it's going to be super hot and humid over there. It's kind of a rough environment for a road team to go and play
Mhm.
there. At least over the last like decade, the Jaguars have usually been like pretty ass, so it didn't really matter because they just weren't a good team. But now they're starting to find their groove. I think they're like 5-2 right now,
I
atop of the
mhm.
AFC South. So that's going to be a hard game. But then it gets a little lighter with the Buccaneers. You guys have that at home. I think you should win that. And then Niners Seahawks, it's always a rivalry game on the road. You never know how that's going to go. That's always going to be a dogfight. And then you guys go on the road to Philly and play the Eagles. So, and
That
then you guys
that
have,
game is so important for
yeah,
us.
and then Seattle at home again after that. And so these next few weeks are going to be big for you guys. And I thought Niners and Vikings, based on how those teams looked at the beginning of the season, I thought I would be able to pencil those games in as easy wins. But any given Sunday in the NFL, you know, these teams, they're all professionals, so you never know what's going to
Mhm.
happen. So yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how things unfold for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I also think we need to make some trades for some corners and sign some safeties because our corners right now are looking very weak. Charvarius Ward has looked decent all year, but there's some plays that he has that I think he wants back. Our right side has been doing fine. Our left side with Diamador Lenore, though, man, has he been getting cooked. Dude, there's been so many plays where he's blown man coverages and zone coverages. It just doesn't make sense. I think Steve Wilks needs to make sure that we have Tashawn Gibson back in coverage on that left side more because every time I see Diamador Lenore in coverage against any wide receiver one-on-one, I'm scared. Like against CD Lamb, he did fine, but against players like Jordan Addison, like especially on Monday, it did not look good for us. Our corners need some work, and we need our defensive line to show up. Right now, Bosa hasn't been getting a lot of sacks this year. I think that's because he had a shortened training camp because of his contract holdout. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Randy Gregory's gonna do fine for us. He's been doing pretty decent so far. I think he has 1.5 sacks so far for us. I don't know exactly, but he's been doing good. He's been getting to the quarterback. He's been getting a lot of pressures. Arik Armstead, he's been doing all right. But our linebackers is probably the best in the league with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. Greenlaw missed the Browns game, which pretty much hurt us on the defensive end because they were getting a lot of intermediate passes off against us, and that's where Dre Greenlaw's specialty is, covering the middle of the field. Same with Fred Warner. Our injuries is what's killing us right now with Trent Williams, CMC, Debo, Greenlaw, and I don't know, man. I just don't like Steve Wilks. It's nothing much to it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, we still have a lot of football left, and it's going to be fun to see how all this unfolds. But unless you have anything else, I think we're all done.
Yeah,
So,
just go Warriors. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
it.
mean, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching.